Welcome Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Let's take a look at the headlines. The Prime Minister alerts that a cabinet reshuffle is forthcoming. Ministry of Tertiary Education gaining support for its jobs report. And Trinidad and Tobago's Coast Guard's 51st anniversary celebration. Our top story. Prime Minister the Honourable Kamla Persad-Bissessar says changes to the cabinet will take place in the next 2 weeks. She was speaking to members of the media following the distribution of books and bags to children at the Rianzi Complex, Couva.
Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar has announced plans to make changes to the structure of cabinet. In speaking to members of the media following her distribution of school bags in the Couva North constituency, the PM says these plans seek to optimize the management of the government administration in providing for the people.
Local government and Ministry of Works will be subdivided into two separate ministries.
Any changes in the Ministry of Social Development?
I will not be able to tell you of the others. What I do know is Works, local government are to be divided into two ministries. The others are still on the drawing board, on the chessboard as it were. I'm giving consideration to those for us to better share up the work and to deliver.
While the public has been eager to find out whether they will be heading to the polls, the Prime Minister adds that local government elections are on and will be held before its constitutionally due date on October 24th.
We will close nominations for the local government elections on or before 4 p.m. on Monday the 9th of September. Yes, September. Thank you, Patsy. On or before the 9th, 4 p.m. So the close of the nominations. Thereafter, we go into budget and we'll begin screening of the candidates. That's a very important exercise.
Meanwhile, the PM distributed bags to students in the area ahead of the reopening of the new school term. School bags filled with stationery and other back-to-school supplies were handed out to children as part of a nationwide drive across constituencies. Kimberam Calawan, News 4.
In other news, as the nation celebrates 51 years of independence, so too is the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard as they celebrate their own milestone achievement.
The Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard has developed into a very flexible and effective force for national security in an era when the demands for adaptive and agile capabilities have increased dramatically. This was noted by Minister of National Security, the Honourable Emmanuel George, while speaking at a ceremony on Tuesday to commemorate the 51st anniversary of the commissioning of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard. Members of the Coast Guard were on parade at Stawells Bay, Chaguaramas, displaying their uniformity and sense of discipline, which is exercised on a daily basis. There were also demonstrations which mimicked actual patrols and interceptions on the sea, utilizing the special training the Coast Guards received and the resources at their disposal. Onlookers also got the opportunity to observe how a joint patrol takes place between the Coast Guard and police service. Acting Commanding Officer of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, Commander Daryl Daniel, spoke highly of the members of the Coast Guard and their contributions to the nation.
To the exceptional men and women of the Coast Guard, I would like to express a heartfelt thank you for your dedication to your country as you continue to place yourself by serving before yourself. Your sacrifices, challenges, and disappointments have not gone unnoticed. And as a matter of fact, your persistence and application of innovative solutions has enabled the organization in its 51st year to continue to successfully discharge its mission to defend the sovereign good of Trinidad and Tobago and to provide on a continuous basis quality service for the security and safety within the nation's maritime boundaries and in all other areas of responsibility agreed to by the state to fulfill our nation's international obligations.
Several awards were distributed to the members of the Coast Guard, as well as special tokens of appreciation to its partners in the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force. The Honourable Minister of National Security listed several events at which the Coast Guard played a crucial role over the years. He said in the face of this country's current crime situation and all the downstream activities associated with the drug trade, the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard must continue to work hard to secure our borders.
Challenge that is faced by our Coast Guard today is transforming itself into a more robust and effective organization, fit to work to address the security challenges faced in the 21st century, all the while maintaining its traditional ability to safeguard and patrol our nation's territorial waters effectively so as to ensure efficient and timely border management and security to this country and the region's coastlines and waterways.
Minister George outlined a number of government's plans and policy initiatives which are being pursued by his ministry for implementation during fiscal 2014 and beyond. These include the construction of Coast Guard facilities at Galeota, several strategically located bases and 10 coastal stations, the acquisition of 4 high-speed interceptor vessels, several high-speed inboard diesel interceptors, and a global maritime distress safety system, and the upgrading of the communication system. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
When we come back, SEA Tea and Tech Awards. Stay with us. As the anticipation builds for the presentation of the 2013-2014 fiscal package by the Honorable Larry Howai, Minister of Finance and the Economy, we will analyze and review the promises and commitments made by the government in the 2012-2013 fiscal package. We continue with a look at the energy sector and the improvements made over the last year.
The Energy Ministry plays one of the most critical roles in planning and preparing the national budget. An economy that is built on natural resources and its revenue derived from the oil and gas sector can be described as a balanced or planned out expenditure. Having contributed 0.5% to the growth of the economy in the third fiscal quarter, it's expected that higher returns will follow and lead into the coming financial year 2013-2014. Such growth is being attributed to targeted energy policies outlined in last year's budget presentation and the completion of a number of goals set out for the energy sector in 2013. Testament of this is the amendment of the Finance Bill 2013, which includes fiscal incentives and changes to the Petroleum Taxes Act to grant incentives under Part 1, Petroleum Profits Tax PPT, and Part 2, Supplemental Petroleum Tax SPT, which were down to attracting further investors. Finance Minister Larry Howai outlined these incentives in his fiscal package.
The incentives will be specific to the development of new fields which are currently inactive, increased production and generation of additional revenues are anticipated in the short term. Moreover, the increased activities would spur the development of local energy service companies, several spin-off businesses, and an increasing number of job opportunities. Total investment in 2013 by companies operating in the sector is expected to be $3 billion.
Minister Ramnarayan says a change in fiscal regime and legislation within this fiscal year is responsible for the level of investment taking place in the energy sector.
The government is doing its part to make this happen, and our policy rests on 2 very simple pillars. 1, make acreage available, and do so on a continuous basis. Hence, the Ministry of Energy is in continuous bid round mode. When we launch a deepwater bid round, in a few days' time, we would have 2 live bid rounds running at the ministry at the same time. So that's our policy, make acreage available on a continuous basis. And 2, improve the attractiveness of the fiscal regime.
Rolling out viable fuel options for the motoring public was introduced through the gas to CNG conversion drive. This was highlighted as one of the main areas key for growth and development and diversifying the economy, with focus on the downstream sector as part of Minister Howai's presentation. The Energy Minister made the announcement to make CNG more readily available to citizens in June this year. Currently, only 1% of the entire population uses CNG, and there is a need to increase its use in the local market. According to Minister Ramnarine, government's introduction of Phase 1 of the project includes transitioning the use of CNG to government vehicles first.
The proposal by the NGC, of course, as I mentioned, is a proposal to invest some 500 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars, and this will be for the conversion of some 17,500 vehicles, and that includes maxi taxis, buses, government vehicles, and generally high mileage vehicles in Trinidad and Tobago, with the emphasis being on the government vehicles.
Realization of this downstream activity is seen in the recent signing of major energy contracts with Mitsubishi and the success of last year's Deepwater bid round, which resulted in production sharing contracts signed with oil and gas giant BHP Billiton.
The project presents several distinct but unique opportunities for Trinidad and Tobago with respect to the further diversification of the energy sector, growth of the economy, development of the Southwest Peninsula, regional energy security, and local content. With the execution of these 4 production sharing contracts, BHP, ladies and gentlemen, is committing to a total investment of at least $565 million for the first exploration phase, and a further $459 million over the optional phases. This means that the investment that is being signed on here today is worth at least $565 million and at most $1,024 million, or close to a little more than $1 billion.
A budget for 2012-2013 expenditure was placed at $58 billion. Government expenditure is planned on the basis of revenue projections, which are predicated on oil and gas assumptions of US $75 per barrel for the Trinidad and Tobago basket of crude oil and US $2.75 per million cubic feet respectively. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
In recognition of their success in the recently held SEA Awards, the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission held its annual SEA Awards ceremony. The function featured several key speakers, including the Minister of Public Utilities, the Honorable Nizam Bash.
General Manager of TNTEC, Mr. Kelvin Ramsuk, says the company prides itself on being a family organization, and the ceremony is one way to reaffirm the bond and values they share as colleagues. He adds the Commission is very proud of all the SEA graduates and the many years of hard work and sleepless nights by students as well as parents has allowed them to achieve great success.
Children, your journey in life is just beginning. As you venture into the secondary school and prepare to work, please continue to prepare to work hard. Surely it will require, again, a great deal of sacrifice, but always remember, no pain, no gain.
He urged them to always remember that education is the most important tool to take you away from poverty and to allow you to strive in what he calls a highly technical environment. Chairman of TNTEC, Mrs. Susila Ramkisoon Mark, in her address to the students, extended heartfelt congratulations on a job well done.
The SEA is arguably one of the most challenging episodes of your young lives. We have put aside this time to publicly applaud your efforts and show you that regardless of the school in which you were placed, your composite score or percentile rank, we are proud of you.
As they put the SEA behind them, she urged them to use the experience as one of self-discovery.
Indeed, the more you know about yourself, the better equipped you are to deal with life's bigger challenges. So use what you have discovered about your capabilities, your strengths, and your weaknesses to your advantage when you start the secondary school curriculum.
Don Lafoucade, inspirational and motivational speaker, gave students some life tips.
Honesty is there. That's not the word, but I'll tell you the word just now. Honesty is there. Honesty is there. I want to change that a little bit. From today, according to Don Lafoucade, you're not going to say honesty is the best policy. Wait, don't put me out yet. From today, you're going to say honesty is the only policy. My friends, when you say honesty is the best policy, automatically you make allowances for some policies which aren't honest. And you start living by the not honest policies, which is dishonest. Honesty is the only policy.
Minister of Public Utilities Nizam Bashk, in his feature address, encouraged parents to actively seek out ways to build their children's capacity for empathy.
Carry them to drop off food at charitable organizations over the Christmas holidays. Have them put aside toys and clothes for children who are in need. The possibilities are endless. Which brings me to the second point. Having an education prepares us to change the world.
The students then received their awards. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Sport is up next. Stay with us. The Coconut Drive Recreation Ground now has a spanking new pavilion courtesy the Ministry of Planning and Sustainable Development and East Port of Spain Development Company. At the recent commemoration ceremony for the completion of upgrade works, officials from both entities indicated that more improvements are in the works for the popular grounds as well as other facilities in the area. Wayne Cunningham has more in this report.
The East Port of Spain Development Company is the project manager for the upgrade of the Coconut Drive Recreation Ground. Arthur Lewis is the communications officer for the company, and he told us more.
East Port of Spain Development Company is a special purpose state enterprise. Our mandate is to develop and redevelop East Port of Spain in terms of its economic, social, and physical infrastructure. So we are really mandated to bring about change in East Port of Spain in all aspects of it. We became operational in 2006, and we began implementation, meeting with communities, deciding exactly what they want. Through that process, we were able to develop what we call a strategic development plan, to which we have sent to Cabinet for approval, and we have consistently been meeting with the communities over the years, where we now set up what we call community working groups in respective areas, working with them, trying to develop projects and implement projects for the benefit of the residents in the area.
Mr. Lewis indicated that the community has a huge input in what they choose to do.
We met with members of the community. We have a working group in this area who have been instrumental in terms of making this happen. Of course, Mr. Dinoon was instrumental in that discussion. And we came upon, we said, listen, we have this budget to work with. Let us see what best we can do. And of course, we cooperated with other agencies, the Samuel Laverton Regional Corporation, WASA, TNTEC, and some other organizations to ensure that we at least have a facility that can become operational to the benefit of the community once more.
There's much more in store for the Coconut Drive Recreation Ground and the organizations which use the facility.
What is proposed here is an academy. If you take a look at, there's a little snapshot over there that we could look at the proposal. And that was, of course, constructing a major pavilion over on that side, which is the western side. The academy in the back of me, of course, which is the northern side. And of course, we are scraping and replanting this entire outfield to make it a sort of world-class facility. Again, for the benefit of not only the residents, but surrounding communities.
Wayne Cunningham, News 4 Sports.
More news after the break. Stay with us. The Ministry of Tertiary Education and Skills Training is gaining support for its jobs report, which is expected to shine a new light on the labour market and opportunities that exist.
Minister of Tertiary Education and Skills Training, Senator the Honourable Fazal Karim, has seen another crucial step in the realisation of his highly anticipated jobs report. On Wednesday, several key stakeholders of industry and commerce signed an MOU with the ministry to provide data for the jobs report, which will broadcast the availability of jobs across several local sectors. These included the Trinidad and Tobago Coalition Services Industries, the Couva Point Lisas Chamber of Commerce, and the Chaguanas Chamber of Industry. This was the second such MOU signing between the ministry and interest groups, and Minister Karim spoke of the idea behind the initiative.
What really also pushed me to this jobs report is sometimes I would look at the foreign cable television channels and see a ticker tape how many jobs were created in the United States of America. And you were seeing that after 1 week of a month ending. Well, guess what? If we have 1.3 million people here, and the United States has over 300 million people, and they can do that in the first week of every month, I am going to do it here in the first week of every month. In the first week of each month, the jobs report will come out and tell this country what are the vacancies by sectors currently, and what are the projected vacancies in the future. And I remember when I spoke about this jobs report, I said, I'm going to akin it to the weather report, that today you'll have sun, tomorrow you'll have rain, and the third day you'll have a combination of sun and rain, and etc. And I asked that this jobs report be placed at prime time television between 7 and 8 o'clock, and we have so started. It is also in the print media. And I give the commitment on behalf of the National Training Agency, as we congratulate our colleagues in signing today, that every first week of the following month, the jobs report will be available to our citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Minister Karim made reference to the number of work permit applications that go to the Ministry of National Security and linked it to a national issue.
I know, for example, that we do not have all the requisite skills and competencies required to run all our industries. But certainly if we continue to repeat the issuance of work permits without having the replacement here in Trinidad and Tobago, we'll be failing the education system, the training system, and we'll be failing our citizens, our boys and girls who are graduating.
The Honourable Minister spoke of many other plans and current initiatives under his ministry, which all speak to a greater enhancement of the education sector in Trinidad and Tobago. He believes that the jobs report is an excellent way to market the skills of locals and the opportunities that exist when investors come to our shores.
I want to make it almost mandatory for my colleagues. Immediately as an investor comes into this country and approval is given for investment, we should know through this ministry and through the agency, that should influence the outcome and the content of the jobs report. Because you must know, during construction phase of this individual investment, how many people are required. In the operational stage, how many people are required. In the servicing stage, how many people are required. So we have investment, initial capital. We want to know who are the builders, how many people. Not necessarily their names. How many masons, how many plumbers, how many carpenters, how many electricians, how many engineers, etc. If we know that, we can feed that into the jobs report, and you see that in your home, on the television, on your newspapers, and you can now advise. Could you imagine the strength of that information for guidance counselors in institutions and schools, for people in mosques, mandir, and churches, in community groups, as schoolmasters and headmasters, as you call them, as senior persons in your community, people who come to ask you to write a recommendation for a job?
Minister Karim called on the National Training Agency to provide him with information on which agencies would be contacted and by when to increase the number of partners involved in the jobs report. He also directed the NTA to establish the signing agreements at its offices in quick succession for the rest of the business community and to seek out partners in Tobago as well. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.